My name's Dennis O'Brien. I'm the site manager for all of the stormwater infrastructure that treats public stormwater runoff located in the central zone as well as in southwest Portland. So that includes all the other sites that you're going to see today over on the east side that happen to be in the central zone. I actually have to manage those as well, but I'm not going to be able to join you there. Thank you for joining me here. I'd like to talk to you today about this project. It's the Moody Avenue Transportation Corridor projects. Hopefully you all got some cut sheets and been able to read them up and have a little sense of what I'm going to be talking about here. Essentially, several years ago, they wanted to put the streetcar in to provide transportation down here to the south waterfront as the neighborhood was just developing. And with OHSU's presence, actually, we are going to try to keep the sidewalks open a little bit, so at least allow for someone to walk through the crowd. Thank you. As you see, this is a very busy corridor. We have the streetcar going up and down every 15 to 20 minutes. We've got hospital, we've got emergency services, all on time. Isn't that wonderful? We've got a lot of bikes on both sides of the street, even though the main bike path is located on the other side. You can kind of see some markings for it. 2-way bike traffic on the other side, but bikes and everything else runs along this sidewalk as well. You might also notice that there isn't really a lot of places for a maintenance vehicle to park and do work. They didn't really think about that then when they were building this project, and it's caused a lot of issues in trying to maintain it effectively and do adequate repairs as needed. The facilities have the 2008 stormwater mix in it, which is a very sandy compost blend with very few fines. That is clays and silts that actually help hold all the soil together and provide the cation exchange and the mineral component that helps plants grow. And so pretty quickly our plants started dying off in these facilities, and it was very difficult for us to do much about it because of our lack of access. What we have tried to embark on recently is some soil repair projects, and the reason why I wanted y'all to come here is so you could get a good view of those recent improvements. The facility that's right behind us here and the next two down in the chain here were recently repaired by our in-house crew. Zoe is here among you. She's also in pictures on the cut sheets. She was instrumental in repairing these projects, and her and her team and myself physically by hand shovel lifted out all the old soil and all the weeds, and then brought in a experimental blended material with a much higher fines content than our current specified approved stormwater blends. The blend was 60% screen topsoil, 20% Doug fir bark, and 20% premium compost mixed in volume. The percent passing the 200 millimeter sieve was 51.3%. So a lot of engineers in the crowd are probably thinking I'm crazy right now. But I do want you to come back out here in the wintertime and watch how these perform. They're fully lined facilities with under drain, old perf pipe under drain, where you've got drill holes at the 4 o'clock and the 8 o'clock. The length of the facility and what we've witnessed over time with our 2008 soil spec is that the rain comes right into the inlet and drops straight down into the perf pipe. It doesn't really have residence time. And what you see now with this improved blend is you see the residence time. You see water ponding on the surface a couple inches and taking its time infiltrating and getting down to that perf pipe. That means that more water is there to the plants, that their roots can enjoy that water. Emergent plants like water. This facility was originally planted with carrots of nupta, Juncus patens, and some camas Quamash. And the carrots faded out fairly quickly because of how droughty the system is, how exposed the area is to high solar temperatures and heat in the summer, and then pretty intense east winds and bitter cold in the winter. So it's a harsh environment for plants to exist, but weeds tend to love it. And anyways, you can see across the street we still have some Juncus patents persisting, especially in areas where there's a little bit of shade, where they're getting more pooling of stormwater. So you see the patents performing okay at the inlets, and in other places where there's a little bit of change in the microhabitat. Otherwise, the carrots of Nutta and the patents have pretty much faded out, and it's becoming more and more of just continually pulling weeds. Obviously, the communities has observed this, have commented to us multiple times about this. We're doing our best to try and improve things, but maintenance access is difficult. And so what we've embarked on is just somewhat like baby steps. And what Zoe's crew and I have been able to do is go after the facilities that give us a little more access. We're able to park our trailer right here, pull it right up on this wide sidewalk, and load right into it with wheelbarrows. We were able to bring the soil in with that same trailer and wheelbarrow it out and put it in place. We were able to load out the plants right here, being able to park the trailer right where your bikes are on the grass, and still allow for people to park up, go up and down the sidewalks. But there's a lot of locations, especially on the other side of the street, where we just can't do that. And so how are we going to get all the rest of these planters to look like these three here and the few that are up there by the pharmacy school? Well, we're hoping that we can, that's the other thing I want to say. Some of you might not know, but the streetcar operates from 5 a.m. to 11 p.m. every 15 to 20 minutes. And it doesn't stop because it's on tracks. So we can't get it to move out of the way either. So it's a little difficult. So what we're trying and hope to do is convince our transportation department to do some night work for us. They'll come out midnight to 4 a.m. and vector out all the old soil. And then I've got to convince some private company with a conveyor truck to do the same thing, putting new soil into these boxes in the middle of the night. All that's a work in progress. But in the meantime, we're going to try our best to nip out a few and take care of the ones we can take care of. Experimenting with new soils. I've got another new experimental soil Henry and I are going to go look at tomorrow morning, actually. And there's a couple more up here on the up in this project that we have prepared and ready, and so we'll have extra experimental blends to check out and see how they perform. Another thing on your cut sheet that I kind of skipped over was an interesting design flaw, for a better word. The streetcar, you can look behind you and see some channel grates out across the streetcar tracks. They're perpendicular to the tracks, and they lead into the stormwater planters. Those are what they call the track drains, and they're trying to capture the stormwater and get it off the tracks and then have it run into the planters. It wasn't fully understood until we started trying to build these things, but the inlet for the track drains is actually lower than the elevation of the soil. And so we ran into a problem as to how's that ever going to drain if we have soil pretty much up covering the inlet. So kind of scratched our heads and decided we'd excavate the soil there and then backfill it with a bunch of 2 to 4 inch aggregate rock. But that was also a problem because that was just accumulating sediments in the interstitial spaces in those rocks. And it made it for quite the maintenance headache, where we had to basically pull all the rocks out, wash them off in a bucket of water, scoop out the sediment that's there, put all the rocks back. So it's a laborious and time-consuming effort. 32 facilities. Not all of them have track drains, but I think there's probably about a dozen out here, so or more. So it was difficult. You can notice now, if you make an observation there, we've actually modified that by pulling the rocks away from the inlet and just kind of creating kind of a catch basin there for the sediment to go in. And then we just need to stay on top of our maintenance to get that sediment removed. Let me see. Oh, hey, Tom. That one doesn't have a track drain, no. But a little further down they do, yeah. Well, it doesn't. It just keeps moving down through the tracks. So yeah, the streetcar will just its rails will actually push the water out of the grooves, and then it actually makes it into our inlets every 15 to 20 minutes. Yeah. So question.
Yeah, I saw as I was walking down. There's a notice for public comment. They're going to be adding a storm outfall over here. Do you know anything about what that project is? Over there?
I'm afraid I don't. They kind of keep you in the dark most of the time. I'm outside working. Anybody else have any questions?
Hey, Dennis.
Hey, Jeremy.
Hey, memory serves. On those track drains, they end up at the 11th hour having to drill weed holes through those rails, right? Because, you remember that?
Yeah, because
Because obviously water can't go through.
they weren't connected either, right?
Yeah.
We were looking at that the other day, and actually on these ones, we didn't notice any. So we're like, what's the point of the track drain? It's not even getting water from the tracks themselves.
Yeah.
So, yeah. The other thing I didn't mention was just the narrowness of the planters. All concrete, surrounded by buildings with glass. We've noticed that the narrower the planter, the more difficult it is to keep plants alive. And that's just, I think it's just a function of how the heat gets trapped in that area and just basically cooks plants. So, Henry, that's something.
One of these for 2 years?
Yes, so when we do a plant establishment planting, we provide mobile irrigation to the plants every 2 years. For this area, I'm utilizing our Parks Horticultural Services group, and they come down with water tanks in the back of pickup trucks and provide 2 gallons minimum per square foot or per plant about every 10 to 14 days. And so yes, these plants would not be looking near as nicely if they weren't getting irrigated. And believe it or not, I'm also having to irrigate the plants on the other, any live desired vegetation in all of these planters, they're watering every summer, even though, those plants were planted 12 years ago or so. I still feel like it's necessary to try and keep as what I can keep alive. So investing in that still, even in the longest of term of maintenance routines. Anybody else have a question? Yes.
At the last planter we learned it drains the east side of the Tillicum, and they use track sand. Does a streetcar use track sand for traction?
I'm not with transportation, although I've never observed that. But I don't know the answer to that question. But I've never observed any kind of grid or anything being placed here for winter travel. Right.
What takes the stuff that drains west?
I don't know, and that planter that y'all looked at, I believe, is actually managed by TriMet. It's not receiving public stormwater, so our group isn't involved with that. Yeah. Tom, I don't know. I'm not aware of any stormwater planters on this side of the river for the Tillicum Bridge. Okay, thank you. Yes.
If you had your choice, what would be the minimum width of a planter that you would allow?
If I had my choice, minimum width of a planter would be 8 feet. Let's depave already. Come on.
Yeah.
I just saw an awesome photograph of Dusseldorf, Germany from 1990 to 2020, and how they completely removed an entire highway next to their river and greened it up, and it's full of trees now and beautiful. And it was just like, hey, you can make a change. So let's think about that.
Yeah. Here, here. Woo!
Tom, that is a wonderful question. Could these planters been built wider and still provide enough pathway for folks to travel via foot or bike or skateboard or scooter? And most of the time, yes, but I have seen it when class gets out, and there are a lot of people moving back and forth between these buildings and the tram. So a lot of OHSU students, when school's in, it's actually it's hopping. So I think yes, they could have been maybe another 2 feet, and maybe we wouldn't have had to build so many of them if we had them a little wider. That would have been nice. But yeah, we've learned a lot since then, and we're getting better all the time. Thank you all for coming. I'll be happy to answer any more questions. And thank you for providing me a microphone so I didn't have to shout. I hope you all enjoy the symposium and enjoy the rest of your bike tour.